13 conference tournaments have now been canceled, and this morning we have been critical of the Big East, and rightly in my judgment, but they will not play the second half, and that tournament has now been canceled. Creighton and St. John's were actually on the floor at Madison Square Garden, went to the locker room for halftime. The teams playing in the next game have been told not to come to the arena, Providence and Butler, and now we have word that the Big East has followed suit and canceled that tournament as well. We've just crossed the top of the hour here, the 1 o'clock hour in the East. On ESPN2, we will take you to First Take, Your Take. Those of you watching here on ESPN, we will continue with SportsCenter right now. Welcome you back to the studio and SportsCenter as we cover this sort of surreal day in college basketball. 13 conference tournaments have been canceled. The Big East, the latest to do so, canceling their tournament literally at halftime of the Creighton and St. John's game and sending teams on their way. Reese Davis with you, LaFonso Ellis, Sean Farnham here in the studio with me. We've got reporters everywhere. The SEC just canceled its tournament and announced the suspension of on-campus events until March 30th. The Big 12 has also announced cancellations and suspensions. Holly Rowe, covering the Big 12 tournament, joins us now. Holly, what can you tell us news-wise about what's going on in the Big 12?
Well, things got underway here, and teams actually took the floor and started to go through their pregame warm-ups with Texas Tech and Texas. After about 5 minutes of the players warming up on the court with no fans here in the stands, just a few parents and a few essential personnel, the players were asked to leave the floor. We quickly learned from the athletic director, Chris Del Conte at the University of Texas, that the ADs had been meeting this morning. They had been meeting and trying to discuss whether or not games should be played, and they came to the conclusion that they were going to err on the side of player safety, that the only thing that mattered was the safety of these players. I actually spoke with some of the Texas players, and they did have concerns about playing in this game. Chris Del Conte actually got emotional, came close to tears when he recounted Andrew Jones. As you may remember, he is recovering from leukemia, and he has great concerns because of his immune system and the condition it is in, and he was afraid. And Chris Del Conte started crying and said, you know, we have to protect our players. I spoke with Chris Beard, the Texas Tech head coach. He said, we have to do what's right for the American public. I understand that. He said, but I do have some real concern, and one of my first thoughts is going to my seniors who are expecting to play some of their last games in the days coming up. He said, so obviously my seniors are on my mind, but I know that we have to do what is right. Bob Bowlesby, the Big 12 commissioner, did go out to say that one of the reasons the decision came now is because they had been in communication with the Kansas City mayor, who declared a state of emergency. Between the Center for Disease Control, the Kansas University Medical Center, they were receiving new information that things were getting worse and that they thought it was prudent to cancel these games. I have not been able to substantiate this report, but we have heard of a couple of players who have been isolated in their rooms back at hotels. We'll follow those stories throughout the rest of the day, but a very surreal event here. The players left the floor. The coaches wanted to leave the floor. Chris Beard stood here forever, not knowing if he should really leave. The fans that were here, the parents that were here sitting in the stands, took a long time to finally realize and have reality set in that this game would not be played today, the cancellation of this tournament. And it is quiet here, just a few ball boys left, a few personnel as they're cleaning up the Sprint Center here in Kansas City.